Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floater. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the boom.
What is up, everyone? We're back bringing the boom here on Wednesday in the NBA Hardwood show, breaking things down for you with about like a little less than 2 weeks left, I think, of the regular season. So, of course, the news is flying. It's going to be a crazy day, and it's a long slate, I'll say that. If you look at the way the slate sets up today, JSU, we got 3 games at 7, then we got 1 at 6, I'm saying it wrong because I'm thinking mountain time, so it's messing me up. But 3 at 7, then we got 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9, and then 9:30. So we got 3 games to kick it off. Then we got news flying throughout the day with everything. Injury report looks long today. Some shows I say, hey, I think it's going to be an easy one with the injuries. Some I think it's a tough one. I think this is a tough one for sure, but we'll obviously break it down and get into it. But how is your Wednesday going?
My Wednesday's going all right. Battling through, long day. We had the early slate for baseball. We got NBA, then a late slate for baseball. So a lot of content over on the site. But Mangone, you got to start the show Eastern Standard Time always, okay? We never go off anything other than Eastern Standard Time. I don't care where you live. I don't want to hear the excuses. Always
I adjusted. To be fair, my saver says, I mean, it physically says in front of me, Sacramento, Washington, 5 p.m. So, I mean, it's hard.
It switches the time zone. Yeah.
So it gets a little tough. I'm going to say that. Sometimes you make the mistake with it.
All right. Well, then I might have to go yell at one of the SaberSim guys to not make that adjustment for you so you can have the correct time zone for the rest of us normal people who live in Eastern Standard Time Zone, the one true time zone that matters. But we had a good little show yesterday. I was like, man, D-Book's crushing. It was my play of the day and stuff. And then I go look, Steph Curry's just dropping the absolute hammer with the 50 ball. So didn't have Steph on the slate, but it was a good slate. Mitchell Robinson obviously crushed. We had some good calls on the show. But yeah, on to the next one. This slate's gonna be wild too, because man, we got some news, and I think we've got news that we're not gonna get in this first wave of games that lock. So that's the other interesting part. Maybe we will though.
That's my favorite kind of slate. So I'm excited for it. We'll have to see how we break it all down and how we handle it. And of course, if you guys could please hit that like for us, we would appreciate it as we break down the NBA. And hey, if you are here, right? If you are here on April 2nd, you're a true grinder, right? You're hanging out. You're probably in the chat a bunch. So say hi, hit the like, subscribe to the channel to find out when we go live. And hey, I didn't know that baseball started at really early this morning, or at least earlier. And I saw Big T was live on Twitter, and I was confused. So I was like, "What is he live doing?"
So yeah, they actually got 2 good slates too, because there's one. I think it starts at like 6:35. It's a 4-gamer on DraftKings. So if you're playing MLB and NBA, they got another nice little MLB slate at 6:35. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. I forgot to mention too, I gave out Devin Booker double at a nice little plus 275. Told you that was happening. Told you he was getting those assists. So hopefully some people tailed that yesterday from the show. But yeah, let's dive into this thing, man. And I also noticed that when you talked about Big T being live at a certain time in the morning, you avoided the time because you were gonna say the wrong time zone. Am I right?
I was about to say it, and I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I didn't want to convert. I was like, I can't convert this right now.
I knew it. I knew I got him with the time zone thing. I could tell the way you worded it too. It was so funny. So
yeah. Nice Kevin says, not playing DFS, but don't want to get rusty. Nice Kevin. I will say this. I pretty much play every day. I did not play yesterday because I didn't like the slate. I was going to be out, and I still stayed on top of it though, right? I followed what happened. I saw Steph Curry dropped a huge game. I was following the news. I was making sure I was on top of stuff because you can't be rusty this time of year if you are playing. And I am definitely playing tonight, and should be a good slate. Yep, and Suzuki double dog. So if you the Cubs keep smashing in that weird ballpark they got over there in the Athletics.
It's the Oakland ballpark, right?
Yeah, but they're called the Athletics now. They're the ATH. They're not the
the Athletics, the Oakland Athletics.
No, they're not Oakland anymore, JSU.
They're not Oakland? That's bullshit. I don't go by that. They're the Oakland Athletics forever and always.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, but like that's why, like, for instance, when you
Cleveland Indians are the Cleveland Indians, the Oakland Athletics are the Oakland Athletics. No one can change my mind.
Like, if you look on like ESPN right now, it says Chicago Cubs, CHC, and then Athletics. It's not Oak, it's ATH now.
Speaking of ESPN, have you been tilted? Like, I don't know if you pull up ESPN a lot, but when I pull up ESPN, like in my browser, why is MLB like all the way over next to like more sports? It's like after like soccer, NCAA women's, NHL. They must hate MLB.
So I bet I can tell you why. This is a guess, but MLB is in a contract negotiation sort of with ESPN. So ESPN has the right.
That's why.
ESPN has all the rights to MLB, but they actually want to get out of that contract. And because they want to get out of the contract, what they've been doing is they cut like a lot of their baseball shows, and they started doing it to a point where baseball has gotten like sick and tired of it. So they got to a point where MLB has now said, we want to look for another partner. Like, what's the dollar amount where we can get out? So they said, if you can get a deal at this price, then we can like cut loose, right? So
I got it.
They're moving on from that, right? They want to promote other stuff, and that's fine. But MLB is definitely trying to. Yeah, they just punted the TV deal. Yeah, so I don't know if there's been like an update on that TV deal stuff, but I know ESPN wants to get out of it. They're trying their best. They're hoping
that makes sense. Yeah,
will pick them up or something. Who knows? Maybe a streaming service. I don't know, but that's their hope. So yeah. Anyways, let's get on to the basketball slate. And talk about it. Again, there's a lot of games today. There is 2, 4, 6, 8 games to discuss. Lots of injury news to break down. Of course, we won't give you the full injury report. We'll go game by game. And the first game to talk about the injuries is Sacramento Kings and the Washington Wizards. And JSU, when we had a show, the Dark Lord. Yeah, I just wear my black stuff every single day. I don't know. Until it gets warm.
Mangone's a Dark Lord, the Sith, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, if you want to do some Star Wars trivia, go ask Big T. That would be hilarious.
No way, that dude. No way he knows anything about Star Wars.
Would be funny to hear Big T try to answer. Like if you gave him 10 Star Wars questions, he'd probably get them all wrong. But it'd be funny.
The only one he might be able to get is like maybe the name of Chewie. Like, what's his real name? Yeah. Just because, like, you've seen him before. Like, he might be able to get something like that.
If I was Big T, like the famous princess name, would he know that?
No way. No way. Yeah, I'm calling no way.
That's like a really basic one. Like what are the robots' names that help out? Like, the main character Luke Skywalker. Like, would he be able to get that right? It would be funny.
No way. I'm saying nope on any of those type of movies. No way Big T knows like a trivia question.
It would be a fun trivia to do, but the problem is if I asked Big T that, he would not be having a good time, and he would make the show miserable.
No, he'd be like, this is the dumbest thing ever. It's like, Big T, you understand that like Star Wars and all these other like movie series are like massive series that tons of people love. But because Big T doesn't like it, God forbid we talk about it.
He would just be like, this is the stupidest thing we've ever done on a show.
But then he wants to talk about like Kenny Powers. Is like, yeah, but that's a good TV series. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not a good TV series, but like, I'm just saying there are other TV series that other people like that. Who's talking about in the chat? Sopranos. I guess JBC has never seen The Sopranos. I'm like, what?
I haven't seen it either, but it's like,
oh my God, man, Gone. I've watched it like 3 or 4 different times, I think, on like the side TVs, but like, it's amazing. You got to watch it.
I might this summer. It's definitely on the list.
You have to. You got to do it.
All right, well, let's dive back into the injury stuff. Let's talk about the Wizards and the Kings. Devin Carter, Laravia, Kaishan George, they are all out. Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart, they are out as well. The big things are, I guess, Anthony Gill and JT Thor, they are in, but the biggest one is Colby Jones, questionable, right? Because, I mean, he's definitely been like a DFS play that we have been, I feel like, discussing over the past, week or so. He's going to come in around 15% ownership. AJ Johnson around 12%, and the rest are all just single digits. I like Alexandre Sarr, 6.5K. I don't know if I love him in this matchup and the way the Wizards have been. Domantas Sabonis, he looks like he's going to be owned. Zach LaVine, he should have a little bit of ownership as well. And, I mean, it makes sense because it's a matchup against the Wizards. The problem is, you and I have talked about this. We don't like playing the Kings typically, like with them in their current situation. They're just a bit crowded right now, so they're not really an exciting team to talk about. But whenever any team is against the Wizards, like I mentioned it on the other show that we did, I think on Monday, I said Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, all good plays, all have the ability to be on the tournament winners because they're playing the Washington Wizards. And Bam Adebayo was a tournament winner, right? I mean, it's just like, I'm not saying you have to make like a max or at least one of these guys, but you just can't ignore them. I think you're doing a disservice if you're playing MME or even 1 to 3 to not even consider some of these guys up top. Sabonis probably feels like the best, followed by Zach LaVine. JSU, I'll let you, talk about the rest of this game. I assume you'll be lower on this game for the most part, but I think there are plays we have to discuss.
Yeah, there are plays. I think Colby Jones, you said he's questionable right now, Mangone. So,
yeah,
because he didn't play last time, and we did see a difference in some of the minutes allocations for some of these guys, right? Bub played like 37 minutes. Jordan Poole went to 29 minutes. So if he's in or out, it actually means a decent deal, I think, right now. If he's in, I want no part of Washington, to be honest with you. If he's out, I think that, Champagny was another guy who got more run. So he would be interesting if starting. Bub might be interesting too. Your boy Sarr took 17 shots last game, played 31 minutes. I think if he plays 31 minutes, takes 17 shots against Sac, Mangone, he might have a decent game here. So maybe I got to think about him. But I don't see anyone on Washington I feel like I have to play. I think their plays are okay right now, but I want to wait for the Colby Jones in or out. And then the King side is more they're overpriced, but Zach LaVine could smash randomly in the spot, and so could Domantas Sabonis. So if I play anyone, it's probably one of those two guys, but they're more MME type plays to me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely more MME plays here for sure. It's going to be, when I MME, I'm going to definitely have to make some tough decisions on how to handle these guys. I do feel like I might just go kind of even with the field on some of these Kings. I tried to do that the other day with the Heat, and I kind of whiffed on Bam. I thought I would have a little bit more, but I get this matchup against the Wizards. You just can't not ignore it. It's too good of a spot for sure. We obviously have good spots on this slate, though. It's not a short slate, so it's definitely something you have to consider. And I do like Sarr, too. I should probably go back to him a little bit.
I knew you were gonna cave. I knew it.
Yeah, his upside's just good. I should pull up his minutes real quick just to confirm, because I do think there are spots where they are going to be less with him minutes wise, and it kind of gets concerning. But I think that's just part of the game.
Best of luck figuring that out, man.
Yeah, you can't figure it out. One game it's 31 minutes, the next it's 25. It's gonna move back and forth. Depends how the game is kind of going. So he's definitely in play though. I'll say this: some slates I've had 40 to 50%. This slate I won't have that much. That just doesn't seem. That's not a necessary risk right now to take, especially on this kind of slate. All right, Knicks and Cavs. Next game up to discuss. The New York Knicks were the talk of the town not too long ago, right? Because of all the injury stuff they had going on there. When you lose Karl Anthony Towns, that's huge. Also, Jalen Brunson, they did say he was going to be back end of March. We're in April. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if they're just kind of locked into their playoff spot and just kind of being cautious or don't really care. But that has got to be a little concerning, right?
They're in big trouble without Brunson, man. They need him desperately.
Oh, yeah, they definitely need him back. Karl Anthony Towns, 10.4K. Listen, I don't want to spend that tag for him, even though he's dealing with some injuries. He's going against Cleveland Cavaliers. Not an easy matchup with Jared Allen, obviously. Evan Mobley is those big men there. They can easily cause problems for him. Now, is that going to help out the usage for OG and Bridges? And will they just kind of kick off where they've been and keep it going? We'll have to see. I don't want to really pay those tags with Cat back. Josh Hart's 8.4. I don't totally hate the idea of DeLon Wright at 4.5, but my problem is I like DeLon Wright at 3K, right? I don't know if I love him at this 4.5 tag with this slate that we have currently. So I'm not really that excited about the Knicks. Ownership does reflect that for the most part. It has DeLon Wright around 12% and OG around 12%, but I'm not looking to play too many of these guys. Cleveland side of the ball, we know Donovan Mitchell loves to play against the Knicks. It's not in the Garden, so that is a little bit of a factor, but he's 8.8K. I don't think I even want to play too much Cavs, JSU. I mean, I'm kind of a little cautious with this game. Evan Mobley, I see, is going to be 25% owned. The only reason why I could think that is because forward, we just play spend up forwards. We've talked about this a lot because just those like raw points have been valuable. Maybe that's the case, but I feel like I can find some other forwards that I'd rather take some chances on. I think I'm going to be lower on this game. Curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be lower too. This game, to me, honestly, like I feel like Cleveland's got the Knicks number too on top of it is another thing. It's kind of in my head right now, Mangone, but I feel like I've watched these games and those were games with Brunson in, and I was like, wow, like the Knicks just aren't as good as, like, it's just clear like Cleveland's a superior team to the Knicks. And now no Brunson, no McBride, no Mitch Rob. I think they're in trouble here on the back end of a back-to-back, and it was clear they rested Cat yesterday to play him today. But I don't know. Like, I guess Cat would be like the guy I would look at, but I don't love paying up against this Cleveland team at home. Like, I think this might be, if anything, the Cleveland plays, maybe a Donnie Mitch or Darius Garland could pop off. But, man, 8K for Darius Garland, like, that just seems like a lot to me, Mangone. So I struggle to get these price tags going, but I would keep them in for like MME purposes. They're not like 1 to 3 lineup guys. And I think the Knicks, I'm with you on DeLon Wright. Like, I'm not playing 4,500 DeLon Wright. No way. Maybe you catch like blowout run and like Tyler Kolak at 3.5 could get you something if he gets a few extra minutes. I just don't see it though with these Knicks here on the back end of a back-to-back. So I'm probably going to be off mostly. The OGs, the Hearts, their prices have gone up too with no Brunson. I just don't love it here.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, like I think there's a lot of spots I can get to. I think there's injury news later on that we might not get right away, and I want to adjust for it. So I'm sort of with you.
That's the other good point too, man. Going like these 7:00 games. If we don't get some of this later news, I would be very cautious with these 7:00 games. Like, not that these games aren't good or decent, but you might be shit out of luck if some of the news goes the opposite way and you don't have spots to maneuver late night.
Yeah, I want to have the spots open today. And again, guys could definitely be good in these early games. It doesn't mean I won't have any Sabonis, right? But I just want to be cautious with it, right? I think you can play pieces, but this isn't spots where I'm jamming them in, right? The big T.
And honestly, it might be a spot where I'm like, give me max 3 from 7:00.
Yeah.
Like, don't give me more than 3 and let me kind of see. We got one more game, obviously, but the first 2 games, game 1, I could pick out a couple guys, but I don't need to like load up.
Also, can you if I asked you, JSU, can you name me values from these first 2 games we've discussed that you like? Like, no. Nope. And I don't want to have all the studs in the early games. Like,
AJ Johnson's not even a value anymore. He's 5K.
Yeah,
he's not even really a value.
I haven't played that much AJ Johnson. I hate him. So
I don't think he's that good. But
trying to think if there's any other values I could think of that I'm forgetting. I mean, obviously the Colby Jones stuff maybe, but he's not.
Obviously, in the next game, you might get value because if Bridges gets ruled out, that could open up some value, obviously.
Yes. So there is stuff to discuss here. Let's go to the injury news.
Oh, please, man, go. Do you need to take a nap in between games?
I tried to hide that yawn. I couldn't get it.
Do you need a pillow? But do you have a pillow behind you? You can rest your head on.
I do have a pillow that I can use here, but I might.
I'm surprised you don't have it, so you could rest your head on it. Gently take a nap as I give a breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to watch the Knicks and Cavs. I'll watch it in April, late April. Like when if
you're
it's
not even gonna. Well, the Knicks, man, the Knicks are. If they play the Cavs, they're gonna get smoked. They're gonna get smoked.
Actually, what? I wonder where they are in the playoffs. I'm assuming they're gonna get like a spot against the.
They're gonna get
probably
like third. So they're gonna get Boston right now.
Well, yeah, in the second round, JSU they play the Bucks in the first round.
Oh yeah, the first round's dicey.
I'm also not like saying I like the Bucks that much, but I'm just saying that's not an easy out if that's where you land right now.
I'm gonna say this too. Like, I don't think the Pistons are a good basketball team. I don't think they're gonna like go deep or anything like that. But like Pistons Pacers, man, I could see the Pistons winning that series. That wouldn't shock me.
I would like to know what the line is, but I like to look ahead of time and try to figure out like what I think the line will be for each of these series without them coming out. I think the Pistons will be dogs. I don't think they'll be as heavy dogs as people might realize. And I think I'll be betting them. Like I kind of feel very confident.
I feel like it's going to be like a minus 130, 140 type thing.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I can see Pistons like plus 140 or even like plus 120, and like people might be surprised by that, and I'm not surprised. That's all I'm going to call it.
The Bucks will be like the popular dog, though. I think, like the public dog.
Yeah, I could see that, and obviously that might not stick. It depends on how the rest of these games.
Here's my thing though with Detroit, man, going and tell me if I'm wrong. I think they might have the best player in that series.
I think it's him. I think Cade's the best player in that series. I think he, to this point, and I know Tyrese has played much better down the final end of the stretch. Yeah. Played a lot better, but I think I'm taking Cade. If you ask me the best, and a lot of times in these series, it can sometimes come down to like your superstar versus their like one versus one, who's better in these playoff series. It matters. And I think it's going to matter. So, and maybe you could say the Bucks the same thing, right? The Bucks with Giannis, like, yeah, I don't disagree with you, especially if like the Knicks are a little more banged up going into it, but we don't realize. Right. Like, so we'll see.
Which they always are because Tibbs just runs his guys into the ground.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far off the board, but I would love to take the Pistons to beat the Cavs if it was a round 2 game, but I just don't think I could actually muster up and do it. But I think they need a little more help to be able to pull that off. If they
my guy Raul just sent me a message. It said, "Man, can I get you your address? I will order a bright light."
he posted that.
Send Raul a DM, man, with your address so he can send you a bright light. Get him a lava lamp, Raul. He needs a good lava lamp.
No, we don't need a lava lamp. We're good. We're good. We're fine with how it is right now. But all right. Next game up, Charlotte and the Pacers. We're just talking about the Pacers, and I assume they win this game. That'll obviously help them in the playoff stuff. Miles Turner, 6.3K. He's someone that I think has a lot of upside against the Hornets in this spot. Also, before we keep going with this game, I want to make sure.
Is he in? Is he in?
He is questionable. Yeah, he is, but it's a good spot for him. None of us touted Colby, right? Correct, JSU? None of us actually said we liked him.
What I said was he steals minutes, a good amount of minutes, when he plays, like when he's officially in. Yeah. When he doesn't play, like last game, Bub got a minutes bump. Let me see here, just so I'm correct with what I'm saying here. Bub played 38 minutes. He played 22 minutes the game before. 31 minutes, 28 minutes the last 3 games. Champagne got a minutes bump, played 29 minutes, played 17 against Brooklyn. So it just felt to me like Jordan Poole got a minutes bump, playing 21, 24, 22, played 29. It felt to me like without him, there were minutes to kind of dole out and give out. That's more what we were saying, not to play.
All right, so let's get to this Pacer stuff. Let me talk about the injury stuff right away because there's a lot here. Miles Bridges questionable, Taj Gibson questionable, Nick Smith Jr. questionable, Josh Okogie in. On the Pacer side of the ball, a lot to talk about here. Tony Bradley is out, which I know that shouldn't matter, but it does matter. RJ Davis questionable, Freeman questionable, Jackson he is probable, Benedict III he is questionable, and Miles Turner questionable. I'll say this: if Miles Turner misses, that really opens up the door for Thomas Bryant to like be the only big. I mean, yes, they can obviously play like these Freemans and Jacksons and all these guys, but it would be a perfect spot for Thomas Bryant. He is 4.2K going up against Charlotte. Obviously, a good spot to target the bigs. If Miles Turner's in, I think he's got upside at his price. Pascal Siakam, 7.7. He's in the conversation, but he can definitely be disappointing at times. So he's kind of a frustrating roster. Tyrese Halliburton, 8.7K. It's definitely not cheap. So we do have the value to make it work, but I will say he's got to do a lot to pay off the tag. It's not like he does nothing. So, and then of course, Charlotte, that's going to obviously be an interesting situation because if Bridges is out, that's going to shake it all up. You'll have Mark Williams at 8.2K, and you can make the case that it could just get ugly for the Hornets where Mark Williams only plays like 20 to 24 minutes, and it's just an ugly spot for him if they get destroyed, right? KJ Simpson could easily get a usage bump. You can make the case for him. And Josh Okogie at 4.5. I actually think he would get a pretty nice roll and bump here. So I think he's in the conversation. We need the Nick Smith Jr. status. That's obviously important. That's going to help other guards. Maybe that opens up the role for a Damian Bowe as an option. So a lot to discuss here, JSU. We don't have all the news, obviously, but clearly a spot that could have some injury news hit, and it could obviously change the way that we approach this entire slate. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Miles Turner in or out definitely means something, right, for the slate. Got to wait. By the way, Mangone, Thomas Bryant, he didn't really get there last time out. We were lower on Thomas Bryant than the field, so just wanted to pump that out for the people there real quick. I think he scored, 18? Mangone? Yeah,
I mean, you and I talked about it. We just said, like, there are guys that can slide in and mess it all up. What was his minutes, actually? I'd be curious the minutes he played.
22. Yeah. And there wasn't foul trouble. That's what I mean, though. It wasn't just a fantasy. You know, if he played 22 minutes and got 30, okay, you know, we would be wrong that, you know, he obviously got there, but we were right on the minute side. So either way, we were kind of right with the analysis, which was his minutes aren't like locked in. And that's kind of what we were talking about. So
and Big O was really good, right? There were definitely good spots. So
my boy Obi Toppin, he didn't get as many minutes. I thought he was going to get like mid to high 20s. He only got 22, but he got almost 30 fantasy points, 29.75. So
he could definitely have a role here tonight too, if some of these guys are out. So I don't disagree.
For sure, yeah, for sure. And so I think from the Indiana side, Mangone, a lot's going to rest on what happens with these guys being in or out, if I play them or not. I also worry that Charlotte gets roughed up here in this spot. So I'm kind of cautious with them. Miles Bridges, I think he was a late add to the injury report. It feels like he could be ruled out. If he's out, Tajin Saloon, or however you say his name, I think gets pushed into the conversation. Daquan Jeffries probably gets a minutes bump. So like those are the two value plays I think you could look at. I can't pay A2 for Mark Williams. I just can't do it. He could smash if this game stays close for sure, but he's still 8-2. So he's going to have to really go nuts to like kill me. And I think from the Pacer side, just kind of waiting and seeing Halliburton, I'd like him honestly a little more if Bridges was in, and those other guys were out. So I just kind of want to wait and see on this news right now. KJ Simpson's 5'2", so he's not like the crazy value, but I think he's somewhat in play. I just worry that that the Pacers kind of put it on him tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree, and I kind of hope Bridges is out because that'll just make me be lower on Mark Williams. I guess the dicey part would be is like I probably have to play a lot of these like secondary pieces like the Josh Okogis, the Daquan Jeffries, and I just don't know which one it'll be. That would be kind of tough. I don't know. Does Reggie have a take on which guy it could be if Miles Bridges is out?
Reg, what do you think? Miles Bridges out? Who you got? Obi? He turned his head a little at Obi. We'll go with Obi.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely could. So, like, one thing you could see is you could see Obi Toppin, like, close the blowout scenarios, right? Where he's just, like, eating, like, all, like, the garbage time fantasy points when he's playing against just a bunch of nobodies. So
we've seen him explode, too, in, like, small amounts of minutes. That's a thing with Obi, too. So
you saw it last game, right? I mean, 22 minutes for 30 DK is pretty good. So, yeah, it's definitely not one to ignore. Michael, I mean, it could be Halliburton, but I just, dude, it's Rick Carlisle. You just never know. And he's 8'7", right? He's got to do a lot to pay off the tag. Like, if I got 45 at 8'7", I would be happy. But would I think it wins the slate? No, I don't think it wins the slate. Like, it could, but it could be on the winner. But yeah,
I mean, listen, if those guys are out and you want to go Halliburton, I got no issue with it. You know, you can get Halliburton. Miles Bridges be out, and maybe you get a value from Charlotte, and you go like a Saloon and an Obi or something and just run it from there, see what you get. So I don't blame anyone for paying up for Halliburton. I feel like on this slate, he's not a terrible spend up, honestly, Mangone. Like, I know we're talking about it like we don't like it. He's not terrible. I think we're going to get better spend ups, though, is more my point based off of news.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Let's get to the next game. And again, we got news that like could obviously shift the slate and be very important. Next game up. This one does have some news. It's at the 7:30 window, so we might have this news in time. We might not. We will have all the other news in time because those were all 7 o'clock starts. Miami and Boston. Jaylen Brown questionable. Drew Holiday questionable, and Al Horford, he is doubtful. And I should also mention Kristaps Porzingis is questionable. So a lot of Boston pieces that are questionable here that we have to discuss. I mean, Boston could really open up, and we don't know which guys are in and out, but it could really open up where Derek White at 7'9", 7'9" feels expensive for him, but that could actually be a discount if all these guys are out. Jason Tatum at 10'5", you could definitely see a pretty good spot for him. I also understand this is not the greatest matchup going against the Miami Heat, more of a slower paced team, but I do think you have to like those guys. Peyton Pritchard at 6K. He could easily start in this spot and have a really nice role, depending on who's in and out. Sam Hauser could have a really nice role coming off the instead of coming off the bench, he could be starting and then get some more 3-point looks. Luke Cornett could start if a Porzingis is out because they're going to need him as a big man in this spot. So it's a lot to obviously like in Boston, depending on how the news hits. On the Heat side of the ball, I'll tell you this, these price tags on Hero and Bam, they're getting up there, and the matchup against Boston isn't really ideal. Khalil Ware, too, 6K. Like, I mean, they have some values that might start, like a Pele Larson's been playing better, but I'm not super excited about it. I will say, if Boston is lacking a lot of guys, maybe it does help those bench guys a little more because the defense on Boston won't be as stout. And if that's the case, maybe that does help those values. But I think there's going to be better values later where I'm really just keying in on what is happening with the Celtics. I need to get that news. And when I get that news, I'm going to make my adjustments accordingly. JSU, though, talk about how you're handling the Boston news and the Heat side.
Dude, what is up to with Terry Rozier coming back and randomly playing? Did you notice that? Like, he just randomly got 30 minutes?
Yeah, that doesn't.
Out of left field.
That doesn't make any sense. Well, maybe I know he was dealing with that investigation. I don't know if I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, it was just wild. And he 100% was doing what he's being investigated for, like 100%. Sure. But hopefully he wasn't, because we don't want that as a company that is pushing all this stuff. But he probably was. Yeah, I was just throwing it out there because 3,800, if he got 30 minutes, would be really cheap. I do feel like it's a spot, Mangone, where against Boston, you're going to probably want someone like Haywood Highsmith out on the floor for more than 20 minutes. Like, if he's not in foul trouble, he's probably going to get more run. Davion Mitchell, good defender. Yeah, it's just not a good spot. Honestly, not a great spot for either side. And I think one of the things with this matchup, Boston figured out a while back in the playoff series with the Heat, going back years, obviously, just make Bam shoot twos. Like, make Bam be a scorer and like shoot those mid-range shots. And they've had a lot of success kind of like even though Bam's like scoring, he's like not having massive games because they're keeping everything else in check, but they're guarding the 3-point line and they're making him shoot mid-rangers all game. And I think it's just like it really is a bad spot for Miami. Not a great spot though for Boston. The only thing that makes it a decent spot potentially is guys being out, right, Mangone? Because right now Al Horford's doubtful, and we assume one, maybe two of these three guys would be out.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least one, maybe two, and I doubt it's all of them, right? I think one or two is going to slide in there, but I think it's half. That's what they typically do, right? They like stagger their guys.
Yeah.
So like they have Tatum, and they have Derek White. There's no, let me just double check. Yeah, Drew Holiday questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I'm curious if Peyton Pritchard starts. Like, I think Sam Hauser is going to start. My guess would be Porzingis sits, and they go Luke Cornett starting. Jalen probably continues to sit, and then Drew sits. That's my guess, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we get all of them to sit, then we're going to have some good plays, like Derek White, obviously Tatum. I agree with Michael, though, in the chat. Celtics don't need to win. They really haven't needed to win for a while now.
They stagger their guys on purpose, right? Like, it's kind of like a plan they've been doing. So, like, that's why I don't think they full on just do, like, all of them resting.
And look at Tatum's minutes. And unless the game's like a blowout, look at his minutes. 36, 38 his last two games.
They've said it's like impossible to sit these guys. Like, they do not like.
So the way I look at Boston is like, if they're not out, they're playing, right? They're not one of those teams that's like doing that bullshit like where's DFS Savant was saying with Charlotte, where it's like Mark Williams and Miles Bridges, they play the whole fourth quarter one game, and then they play 22 minutes the game before. It's like they don't play that shit. If that's the case, they're out. And I think that's more what you're talking about, right? Like, if Tatum's going to sit, he's going to sit. But if he's playing, he's like going to play and play to win. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm based off this news. If these guys are all out, I'm definitely going to like some Derek White. I think Sam Hauser would be a good value. 5K Cornet, Mangone. I don't know about 5K Cornet, but seems a little steep for me, honestly.
It does seem steep, and it's not like that's a great matchup against Bam Adebayo, right? Like, so that's the other thing.
And honestly, like Bam, the way they guard Bam, I know he hasn't had a ton of like massive fantasy games from Boston. I think that's kind of by design, but the way they guard him, he like could, if he wants to, because they do allow him to just go one-on-one and say, like, if you can beat us, go ahead. We're going to try and guard all the other perimeter guys. We're not letting you beat us, or we're not going to let all these other guys beat us. You go beat us. So, I could see him randomly popping off, but on the surface, it doesn't seem like a game where I want a ton from the Heat side. What are you doing with Larson? Because he's been good.
I can't get behind it. I mean, I know what's his name was out recently, Davion Mitchell. So, like, you could make a case.
I think he's just going to get better value is the easy answer.
I agree. Like, I think the later value that we're going to get, it's just better. And I mean, it's just, there's that Nuggets game, man. Like, there's clearly going to be value that pops up. And I don't want
has to be
so much. I want to be so overweight on that value. I don't know how it's going to fall, but I just want to make sure I have so much of it.
And Mangone, the Spurs. I mean, I don't know how many bodies the Spurs have, but
yeah, it's fair.
They're going to have some value. They got a bunch of guys out.
Yeah. I'm with you. So I am not super excited about the Pele Larsons. Like, it's one of those things. If I have like a small percentage, great, right? But like if I have like 25%, like that's too much. Like, what am I doing? That's wrong. So, and he might not even start. We'll even see if he starts here in this spot. I mean, he could. They could do the Alec Burks thing. I'm assuming he starts though. He's been playing good basketball. It makes a lot of sense to probably start him.
Probably. Fathead said Shai clinched the top 4 spot in the draft. So
yeah, but you need that. You need to clinch top 3 because top 3 is and as you go higher and higher up, it gets you a better percentage. So they're going to keep.
They have to have a chance, right?
Yeah, I believe the worst team in the league, I think, is the Wizards right now.
And the Jazz.
Yeah, now I'm curious. I'm going to look it up.
It's the Wizards and the Jazz. They're the 2 worst teams.
Yeah, Charlotte's 3 games. They have to lose. The problem is this is the problem. So they're 3 games above the Wizards. The problem ain't losing. It's the Wizards winning 3 games. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And the Jazz. Like, that's the issue.
Yeah, Wizards ain't winning no damn 3 games.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm trying to now you have me want to look at their schedule. Can they win 3 games? Let's just check. It's actually not that many.
They ain't winning no man going. They're gonna like if they even get close, they're gonna sit everybody.
Yeah.
They're gonna be playing the AJ Johnson backup of the backup of AJ Johnson. They won't even mess.
The one game that they have that's not a playoff team is the Philadelphia 76ers. The rest of the teams are like the Bulls, the Heat, the Kings. Like they're technically playoff teams.
That'll be the game Philly lets Quentin Grimes go for like 40 to watch.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, well, that's enough of that game. It's clearly a spot that could be important. I think it's one of those spots. I feel like we have at least one or two each show that we just say, hey, it's important to be a Discord member. It's important to be in the Run Pure Sports chat. That's why I use that code RPS15 to get 15% off. Easy promotion there, JSU, but also it's just the truth. Like, it's hard to really break it down without the news. So that's definitely one of the spots for sure. Let's keep moving this thing along. Let's get to the Utah Jazz and the Houston Rockets. And, I don't love this spot, but there's definitely some opportunity here that I can't ignore. One of them is Fred VanVleet is questionable. And if Fred VanVleet misses, that does open up opportunity for Jalen Green and Amen Thompson. They are 7-7 and 8-6. Does not mean that they're like amazing plays at those prices, but it would help if Fred VanVleet's out. Şengün would also get a nice little bump at 8-7 going against Utah. We know you can obviously target them with big men, so he makes a lot of sense. The guy I like the most, I think, is Tari Eason on the Houston side of the ball. He's shown a ton of upside. Price is pretty good at 5-6. You can make the case for Jabari Smith if you wanted, and those are guys that kind of closes the game out if it's a blowout. So, I do think Houston is pretty good. Utah, I struggle with them. They're definitely healthier than they've been. The guys they got for today, I'll count the amount of guys. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So they have 10 of them. Jaden Springer is questionable. If he's out, that would make 9. Another problem is it's some of their better usage guys. Like they have a Walker Kessler back at 6'7". They got Keontae George, Colin Sexton, Isaiah Collier. So those guards are a little more crowded. There's simply at least one of those like 3 that are out most slates. So I don't know. Matchup 2 against Houston, it does not seem like a good Utah spot. I thought last slate was a pretty good Utah spot, but JSU, maybe you can talk me on some of these Utah guys. I really mainly like Tari Eason and maybe some of the studs if Fred VanVleet's out, but what's your thoughts?
First of all, I agree with Jackson. I'm already getting tired. I got to get myself another one. I mean, geez, Dunkin' Donuts. Can you deliver
another
me one
coffee.
real quick?
I'm gonna make one after the show. Right when the show ends, I'm making one because we got a long slate. I'm gonna be stuck at my computer probably till like 8 o'clock. So, and that's 8 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, 10 o'clock real time. It's a late night slate today for sure. But I agree with you. This Utah side, first of all, I want to have one of those 3 guards out to play the other ones. It makes it tough when all 3 of them are in: Sexton, George, Collier. And then you've got Filipowski. He's ahead of Walker Kessler now. Price, I can't do that. And you got Walker Kessler there, and this is just a not so great matchup for this team in general. I don't know how you play Utah. I get they have 10 guys, but it's still more moneyed up than it looks, even with 10. On the Houston side, Mangone, I could sell myself on playing like a Şengün in this matchup or Jalen Green, because I think one of those guys could pop off for a massive game, and be in the optimal. So I kind of like getting a little different. I assume they'll be low owned as well on top of it. I think I like Şengün the most, but Jalen Green would be too. Those are really the only two guys, though, because Houston's pretty healthy right now. I mean, Tari Eason 5'6", the price tag looks nice. It's just the minutes. The minutes are not what you want with everyone healthy. So, yeah, it's probably a Şengün or Jalen Green spot, and I'm out on Utah. I played them last slate. They were really good plays. This slate, I'm going to be out.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense to be out on it for this slate. Actually, I should mention some news that just came by and some that we just got. So we did get the Miles Turner and Benedict Mathurin. So Miles Turner is going to be in. Benny Mac is out. So we're probably still not going to love the Pacers as much, but of course the studs are fine, right, against Charlotte. Maybe with Mathurin being out, maybe that does help Obi Toppin a little, but again, I'm not excited about him, and the values we're going to get later are pretty good. The news we just got is PJ Washington. He is out, so that is the next game up. He's not going to be in the lineup. You're missing Kessler Edwards, Brandon Williams. Caleb Martin is probable. I'm sure he's got some weird minutes limit, and Derek Lively is questionable. On the Hawks side of the ball, we should talk about that. Of course, we got Toppin, Wallace. They are out. Trae Young, he is going to be in, so he is going to be a piece that obviously you could like as a stud going against the team. And Anthony Davis is back. And hey, the Dallas Mavericks are favorites here. They've been playing a lot better with AD in the lineup when he has been there. It's obviously a clear, massive improvement for this team. Let's talk about the Atlanta side of the ball first, though. Trae Young, going to be around 20% owned. I think he's solid, but I think I'd like other studs that I could talk myself into. Onyeka Okongwu, 7'8". I've loved Onyeka Okongwu all year. 7'8" going against Anthony Davis, that just sounds – I don't know if it's egregious is the word, but it just seems like a good fade spot. He doesn't have a lot of ownership, but I'm not that interested in. Dyson Daniels at 7'7". I don't totally hate him, but again, a guy I'm not going to be loading up on. Karis LeVert at 4'6" could definitely have a nice role with some of his usage off the bench and could pop off for some upside. So I don't hate him as a value, but again, the values later on are probably just going to be better. As we continue with the Dallas Mavericks side of the ball, Spencer Dinwiddie, 6'3". That's a guy I've seen at his price with AD back. I'm not excited about. Najee Marshall's price is still going down at 6,800. I'm waiting for these prices to continue to drop, JSU. Daniel Gafford's price is expensive too. He's at 7-1. I don't need to spend 7-1 for Daniel Gafford. So this game does seem like another game to be a lot lower on. I know we've talked about a lot of games to be lower on, but it's this next game coming up is the game. I want to make sure I have the spots open for it. There's obviously news in that Boston game that we liked a lot, but JSU, talk about what you're doing with Dallas and Atlanta.
The problem is that we have all these teams where guys are in, they're out. Guys' price tags all get inflated, and then other guys come back. And Dallas is a perfect example of this, where AD was out for this long time, Kyrie, obviously, the centers. So you had PJ and Najee and Spencer, Clay, all these guys get up to outrageous price tags. And now they're slowly dropping, but they're not playing like AD enough minutes, Mangone, to where I want to play him. Yeah. Gafford, they're not playing a lot of minutes. But when they're on the floor, they're highly productive, right? So Daniel Gafford only played 19 minutes last game, but he took 9 shots. He had what do you have? 15 points and 7 rebounds or something like that. It's just 17 points and 7 rebounds. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this is the problem. Najee Marshall should get a bump with no PJ, but it's 6'8" Najee Marshall. I don't know if I can do anything with 6'8" Najee Marshall with all those guys still in. So he really doesn't get that much of a bump. So the only thing I see is maybe keeping Spencer in the pool at 6'3", just because I've at least seen him give us 40 plus 45. And he can do it just because he can rack up the peripherals in the assist column specifically and get up there. So He's the one guy I have a little interest in. We don't think AD is going to play more, right? Like we think he's around 30 again.
No, yeah, I was just looking into that just because, like, I know they want to obviously make the playoffs, right? And they have that, like, I think they have that 9 seed. I'm not saying they have it locked up. They're only 2 games up on the Suns, but they're either the 9 or the 10, right? They can't improve to the 8. It's just they're 6.5 out of the Clippers. So, like, I think they're going to monitor the AD minutes and, like, as games become more must wins down the stretch. But I think they obviously want to try and, like, push and make that playoffs, and they know AD's health matters, and that makes sense to only play him in that, like, 24 to, like, 30-minute range right now.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So, but Gafford, like, we don't think his minutes go up because, like, if these guys were playing full run, I'd probably like them. I just, I don't like them more because of the minutes than anything else.
Yeah. You know what else stuff? I just looked at their schedule. It's definitely not easy. Like, Atlanta's seems like definitely the one that's easy, but then after that, it's Clippers, Lakers, Toronto, which is the easy one, and then at Memphis. But last game of the season at Memphis could just be like a bunch of scrubs playing, but they got to play too. Memphis is kind of falling a little bit. So it's going to be curious to see how, like, the standings end up and see which teams have to push and which teams don't really care to push.
Right.
So, yeah. We'll see. But, yeah, I'm with you, JSU. I don't really want to play too much Anthony Davis. Like, I'd rather play Jason Tatum. I'd rather spend up for him in a spot where I know guys are going to be out. He's going to be a way better player. Or a Derek White. Like, it's just not a spot that I love. Like,
the better plays are definitely on the other side. Like, right, like Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, I think are better plays in a vacuum. You want to go there, you can. And then the value I don't even need because I think we're going to get it with the next 2 games. So.
Yeah, and honestly, the more we've talked about it, like with some of these studs, I'd rather play like a King stud or a Pacer stud against just like an absolute dud of a team than I think some of these other studs in these tougher matchups that we've talked about.
He is. I'll just say the one thing that's annoying is like all those peripheral stats he was getting. So he's just got to score at a super high rate now because like Gafford's getting all those rebounds. AD, there's just not as much to go around, you know. So it does help Najee that PJ Washington is out, right? Like that's not going to be nothing. But you said it right, Michael. It's fine at 6'3" on that site, right? 6'8" on DK. I'm not really excited about that. I doubt I'm getting to it too much. It is a good matchup against the Hawks, right? Obviously, that's where a matchup where you can get those stocks. You ain't playing no 6'8" Najee. No way. I love Najee, but I can't do that.
No, I'm not doing that. I'll go to other guys. I agree, Michael. I'm a big Dyson Daniels guy, so I probably didn't talk him up enough, but he's definitely a good play, and JSU liked him. Let's get to the next game where there's 1,000 injuries. It's really tough to discuss and figure it out, but we will do our best to kind of figure it out. Spurs and the Denver Nuggets. I'll rattle through the Spurs first. So Bassie is out. Keldon Johnson is questionable. Soghan and Vassell, they are out. I'm going to pull up the projections on the Spurs just so I can give us a good assessment of who's available. We got Castle, Keldon Johnson, who's got the questionable tag. Then we got Chris Paul, Champagny, Barnes, Mamu, Biyombo, Wesley, McLaughlin, and Branham. So that's 10 guys. If a Keldon Johnson misses, then we are at 9 guys. I don't know if this Riley Minix guy would then get a projection or this Harrison Ingram, but you get what I'm saying, JC. They're definitely shorthanded. And because the Nuggets are missing so many guys, they should be missing guys. Currently questionable on the second night of a back-to-back where we had double overtime. So we know when double overtime happens, this is a spot to sit guys. In a matchup against the Spurs, Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Peyton Watson. They are all questionable. That is 6 guys that could be missing this game. You know who's not missing this game, JSU? Russell Westbrook. 7-5. And honestly, I don't want to get in everything that happened last night. If you want to get into it, that's fine. I know he made mistakes. Did you think it was a foul? All right. Did you think it was a foul? Yes or no? I'll ask you that first.
You know what? No. I think he deserved the call, though, for not getting back on defense and laughing after he missed the layup. So I'm glad that he got that foul call.
Hey,
no, it was a weak call. Or like to me, it looked like a weak call.
My only argument for saying it was a foul is if you think it impeded his landing zone, because I think a lot of people say that fouls are soft when they don't hit him as much, but if they mess up the landing zone, that is a foul. Even if I don't make that much contact with you, if I'm in your landing zone, it's a foul. It's to protect people's ankles. I
Put
thought
it like this though: if he was in the right position, he wouldn't have made that foul.
No, yeah,
he was out of position, racing back into position.
Correct.
Hence, and staring at the basketball when there were three guys that were literally on Anthony Edwards. Like there were three guys just staring Anthony Edwards down, one here, like all around him pretty much. Yeah. So there was no reason for him to be in the position he was. I don't need to get into how you're supposed to guard the ball and your man, but weak side defense, 1-on-1 here from JSU. But Russell Westbrook knows how to play fucking defense. If he wasn't laughing after missing the layup, he would have been in the right spot. There would have been no foul. Nick would have missed the three, and the game would have been over.
No, I'm with you. So JSU, current projections. If you look at SaberSim right now, if you look at Run Pure, we have a pretty identical projection. It's around 28 for both. I'm just over projecting that to start the slate. Like when we get off the show, I am changing his projection. I am moving it up to like 35 or 38, because I assume that's going to go up. And I will say this as someone who tracks this every single time these Nuggets are out. I've seen Westbrook hit upwards of 45 or 46 as a projection where people were asking questions in our chat. Should I not play Kevin Durant and should I play Russell Westbrook and leave $3,000 on the table? Like this is a spot where Russell Westbrook, his projection is currently wrong. And if people want to lock into other plays, that's fine. I'm going to currently boost his projection. I'm probably going to boost a couple of these bench guys just because I can mix and match them around. And who knows? I'll figure out how the chips fall and move my guys around. But I want to make sure I'm overweight on this game and some of these plays. Westbrook is clearly the best play. Hard to know who else is going to be in this game, but I want to have the opportunities to play these guys. Another thing I might do, JSU, I might boost the Spurs projections just so I have the ability to swap to Nuggets later on and maybe some of these guys in the later game. So that gives me the opportunity where I at least preserve those roster spots with plays that are still currently kind of good plays. So that's my overall take on this game, JSU. I want to just bump these projections so I am overweight on these plays, and I'll figure it out later. Westbrook is the best play in this game, though. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's pretty much like Westbrook's the best play, but also, man, going like if all these guys sit, then it's irrelevant, right? Because then there's a ton of good plays. Westbrook's the best play, but there's a ton of really good plays. Let's say only like 2 or 3 of them sit, though. Well, then, Michael Porter Jr. could be the best play.
Correct.
Or whoever. I'm just saying, Jamal Murray. I don't know. It does feel like to me, though, after that game, the way they lost and how they put out for that game, I mean, there's no way Jokic is playing tonight, right? Like, no way.
Jokic always plays, so I don't know. I didn't hear his.
I know, but this season's been a little different. They kind of held him out through that stretch. Like
they held him out through that stretch, but I don't know if they for sure. Like I think Murray sits. Like Jamal Murray sitting makes so much sense, right? Like that's one for sure.
He played, man, he played like 50. He played like 50 minutes. You don't think he's gonna sit?
I just wouldn't be surprised if he played. I don't want to say for certain. Like the guys, I think if you told me to rank like my confidence of guys sitting, I would say my confidence is Jamal Murray number 1 sits, Aaron Gordon number 2 sits, and then 3 would be.
How the hell did they run their guy? Like they ran Christian Brown and Jokic 50-something minutes. That's crazy.
Do you want to know why they ran them in the ground? So I heard a quote yesterday from Mike Malone, and they have scouts that watch specific teams closely, and one of their scouts said he watched the Timberwolves like last 5 to 7 games, and he said the Timberwolves play so hard against us, and they do not play hard against other teams. And the point that Mike Malone drilled home in his press conference was, we need to play against this team hard. Like, we never play them as hard as they do. They out-hustle us, and I think Mike Malone was making a statement yesterday, and I mean, it's going to come back to force them to sit guys. They didn't expect to play double OT, but I think that's the exact reason why Mike Malone really pushed his guys yesterday.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon, that's just crazy. But I get it. I get it. I would push it against the T-Wolves too. And the T-Wolves, it doesn't shock me that they play up against the Nuggets because they view the Nuggets still as that team that went out and won the championship a couple years ago, right? And you saw what Anthony Edwards said after in the press conference. He obviously views Jokic as the basketball GOAT right now outside of him, like in game.
Yeah.
We're talking about like in the league right now. He views Jokic as like the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure he views himself up there. But
JC, do you agree with this with Jamal not playing last night? Do you think he might play tonight? Like I just assume when Jamal's questionable, I assume he doesn't play, especially with Westbrook not on the report.
So the way I look at it is more like, does Jamal really want to play, without all these guys? I don't know. Maybe he will. But
I just think with them having Westbrook there to just like run that show, like they don't need
the Spurs
Jamal.
are taking. They're resting their guys. They're resting all that. Keldon Johnson's questionable too. Like who knows what happens with him? Shohan's out. Vassal's out.
He just whenever he's questionable, like especially if like all these other guys sit. I don't know. I just don't think he plays. I always lean he doesn't play in these spots basically every time.
Yeah, I lean that way too. But maybe he will. And that goes to your point. Like if Jamal does play, then he's an amazing play. You know what I mean? So we just got to wait and see what happens. If MPJ's in, if Jamal's in, what does that do? We're still going to want Denver because let me tell you right now, Denver's one of those teams. I don't care who's out for the other team. They'll still fuck up defensively and give up a shitload of points. So, look at that slate with Milwaukee, and they let Milwaukee hang around in that game. Like that was embarrassing. So, and I think Jokic played in that game. It was his first game back off the injury, but they were healthy. So, it feels like if Jokic is out, it's DeAndre Jordan. Peyton Watson's also questionable. Wonder what happens with him. But DeAndre Jordan would start. I will say too, like depending on how many guys that are out, Jalen Pickett, he's been getting minutes at least, and he's 3,200. So if you get a couple of these starters out, I think you can go to him. And then the rest is just gonna go to like who we see in the starting lineup. And I think the Spurs side, going Sandro, Mamukelashvili, I could see him getting some more minutes in this spot. So I don't mind him. Champagny, those are two cheap guys I think could play more, in this spot. I think Castle is going to get his run regardless, so I don't mind Castle with all these guys out. And then I want to see what happens with Keldon Johnson. But right now, those are the cheapies. I'm kind of looking at. I wouldn't be shocked if like Blake Wesley went in there and played a ton of minutes. He's just not very good, but I could see him getting more run here. I just don't think he's an amazing play, but he's 3,200, so he's another guy I think you could throw in the pool.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it does seem like a DeAndre Jordan night if Jokic sits. I mean, it's easy just to match up one of those big centers against them. It's not like more of a small ball team. They're playing Biyombo and Mamu. Like, it just makes sense to, hey, let DeAndre Jordan cook tonight. It's not crazy to do that. So I definitely want to see what the lineup's going to be. Again, another reason to be a good Run Pure member. I want to be well overweight on this game, so I'm going to be adjusting my teams for that. Also, we should mention, JSU, Steven Castle's a pretty healthy projection at 6'9". I mean, it is a really good spot for him against a team that plays no defense. So I do like the spot for Steven Castle. And I think a Julian Champagny could pop off for a pretty big game at 3-4. Mamu, you mentioned a little bit. So there's definitely good plays as values that you can get to as well. It sounds like you agree with me.
Yep. Yeah, brought those guys up. I definitely agree. They are good plays.
Yep. And the Keldon stuff. If Keldon's out, that's going to help more of those wings. So there you go. Let's get to the next game up, and it's the Pistons and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And, of course, injury news to discuss here. Cade Cunningham, doubtful. Tobias Harris, improbable. Who knows if he gets late scratched again, because that's just what this team has been doing. We got suspensions: Holland, Sasser, Stewart, all out for this game. On the OKC side of the ball, Jalen Williams is questionable now. Alex Caruso, the guys that are out: Wiggins, Mitchell, Dukas, and Dieng. So, JSU, if for some reason I happen to whiff on the Denver Nuggets and they play all their guys, and I whiff, I do have good plays in this later game that I can kind of get to, right? Like they're not bad plays on this Pistons side of the ball. We got Jalen Duren at 7-3 with no backup. Like, he might play 40-plus minutes tonight, as long as he stays out of foul trouble. Tobias Harris at 6.3K. If he's going to suit up and play, I do think he is a solid play. Dennis Schroeder. I know you don't love Dennis Schroeder at 6K, but we'll have to see if that changed your opinion with Sasser and Holland out. It's just, there's opportunity here. Malik Beasley gets some more opportunity. I know it's not an easy matchup against OKC, but the point is there's definitely opportunity here for some of these guys. Is pretty good mid-tier plays. So I'm not completely ignoring them, JSU. And then the OKC side of the ball, of course, they are a lot more healthy with SGA, Jalen Williams, Holmgren, and Hartenstein back. But some of these role players have the opportunities to pop off, especially if some of these guys misses, like an Isaiah Joe, a Casey Wallace, or a Dort. So those are some of the values that you could look at there. What's your thoughts on Pistons and Thunder?
Yeah, I think the Pistons side, how you got to look at it. Like, Paul Reed right now has a pretty big projection on Saber at 3,100, but it's just how I build for this game. So, like, yeah, Marcus Sasser being out definitely helps Dennis Schroeder, because if they're in this game, they're going to push these guys. I think it also helps Oscar Thompson a little bit. So I think the way I'm going to look at it, Mangone, is I'm probably going to play, like, if I play a lineup with these guys, I probably play like two of them, two of the spend ups, whether it be Duran, Schroeder, Thompson, two of those three. Or I just play like a cheap guy. I play like a Paul Reed or something like that, or Fontecchio or something at 3,300 and just take a value play. On the OKC side, Jokic just went for 60. The man who's leading the MVP race is SGA. I would not be stunned if this man tried to go for 40, 50 here tonight, Mangone. So at 11K on a slate where we might have a lot of value, I think I kind of like SGA here, coming off of what we saw last night. A lot of people were talking about how is Jokic not the MVP, all this stuff. SGA might just come out and drop a massive game. So he's someone that I want to be on. The rest of the team, though, like Hart and Chet Holmgren back together, I don't really want to play the bigs. And then Jalen, I probably won't spend 8-2 for Jalen. So I think it's SGA from OKC, and then I think it's from Detroit. I'm either going two of the three spends at the top, or I'm going with like a cheapie.
Yeah, and regarding your SGA take, another good point to mention is, like, the Pistons probably still keep this game competitive. Like, I think
that's why I like him. Exactly.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm surprised they're like, I mean, I guess maybe there's deep favorites because of how bad the bench is now without Stewart and everything, but the Pistons definitely have the ability to keep it close. And let's say it does blow out. Well, typically it's SGA doing the blowing out, right? I mean, that's typically the reason. So it's definitely not a bad idea to get to SGA, especially if we get all the value. So another reason to leave roster spots open tonight, I will certainly be doing that. All right. That's the slate. We got most of the plays. It's plays of the day is going to be tough to give without this news, but we'll find a way. We'll find some winners for you guys here. JSU.
Mangone, we know you're going to say Russell Westbrook. Just say his name so we can get it over with.
I feel like that's cheating. No, is that fair? I don't know.
I don't care. You can do whatever you want.
You know what? He is currently 0.06%
in our show. You can do whatever you want.
That is fake news that he's going to be 0.06% ownership.
Yeah, there's no chance he's going to be that low.
Yeah, no chance. Do you have a favorite guard value or point guard value before we kind of go on to plays?
Value?
Yeah.
What are we thinking? Like 4K or less for value?
Yeah, a cheap one.
Let's see here.
That is not. I mean,
So
It's got to be point guard. If it was guard, I would probably say Champagne.
Oh, is it point guard only?
He said point guard. I mean,
Okay.
Chris Paul could be in that convo, but
No, we're not playing Chris Paul.
I know he's a condom play, but he will project well. I know he will.
I think when it's all said and done, like if you want to off the board, like I think a guy like, man, I don't think he's very good, but Blake Wesley is 3,200. Jalen Pickett's 3,200. I think when it's all said and done, those guys might be in play, depending on what news hits for guys being out. So I think those are the guys I'm leaning to right now. I don't really see a ton that I love.
If the news hits right, I would definitely say Pickett could, but it might not hit right is the problem.
But then you can pivot to Wesley.
Sure.
If you have
that's a good point.
So
maybe I'd give DeLon Wright, but I don't love it.
he's 4,300 though.
Yeah, it's above that.
Or 45.
You're probably right. It's probably the Wesley or Pickett if you're going dirt cheap. And point guard value is like okay today. It's not amazing, but
yeah, it's just okay.
All right, let's get the plays of the day. JC, you go first. Who do you got? Who is your play of the day?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a stud. I do think that SGA comes out and tries to put the hammer down. So I'm going to give SGA as my stud. And then for a value play, I just have this feeling that Sandro is going to get a little bump and run, 3,500. Right now he's projecting as high owned, even though the projection doesn't look that great. But I was actually surprised by that. Is that because they're expecting Keldon to be out?
Yeah, I mean he's been popping lately, and they're just shorthanded. So he's gonna play his 18 to like 24 minutes, and like he produces, and it's like the matchup too. The matchup against Denver's pretty good, so the rates are gonna produce out pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm still gonna play Mamu, so whatever.
My expensive one is going to be Russell Westbrook. He will be my favorite play. And then my cheap one, if I wanted to give a cheap one, who would it be? He's like too chalky, so I don't want to give him. You know what? I won't go like all the way to the bottom, but I'll go like kind of mid-tierish. Let's go with Ausar Thompson. It's definitely these are the spots where he does pretty good. So I'll go with Ausar Thompson getting a lot.
I thought you were going to say Chris Paul.
No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't. He's just a projection player right now, and this time of year, I don't buy into those projection plays. Like I'm kind of like I know what's going on here. It's just I know he's 4-3, but it's like I don't know.
He is so cheap. It's crazy. I don't want to play him either, but he's really cheap.
Yeah, I mean he's one of those guys. Whenever I pull up the slate, I normally just either go even with the field or under, depending on like what plays pop up. And I hope value pops up where I don't have to play a lot of Chris Paul. So that's my hope. But all right, that will wrap it up for us on the show. We got content to get up for you guys. Got to get in the Discord chat for the members. Again, if you want to sign up, use that code RPS15, get you 15% off. But thanks a lot for joining us on the show. For me and JSU, we'll see you guys later.